Guys, it's thru, and today I'm going to go over some stuff I discovered while going through the the arc of One Piece. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. By the way, this is likely one of my favorite, like up there arcs ever, because I love mystery stuff. It's pretty high up there. It's one of my favorite kind of type of stories to tell. When I was a kid, if any of you have ever heard of this show called Wishbone, it was a show on PBS that was like an educational show that was meant to introduce you to a way to introduce you to other literature. And they had a book series that went along with those, but they went in a different direction than these TV series, and they were mystery books, and every one of them. Now I reread those things to death. I wish I still had any copies of them. There must have been easily over a dozen of those, and they were just more, in a way, in some ways they were a little more serious than it wasn't a cartoon. It was live action, and the main thing focused on a dog that could talk, like we could hear him talk, no one else did. Kind of like Homeward Bound and there were some other movies, especially in like the 90s. The 90s seemed to be full of movies and things where a lot of animals could talk, where we could hear them, Homeward Bound, and some other stuff. But some mystery stuff. This mystery arc is great, and I'm still unsure who the person is, but I have found some interesting evidence to point out, I think, how they are doing some of what they've accomplished recently. Now, I'll go over that. I'll be going over that today. Come on. So to recap quickly, once the Straw Hats arrived there, some of them ended up meeting with Shaka and Lilith and some of the other satellites, and then Luffy and Chopper and Jinbei and Bonnie met Vegapunk himself, and shortly after that, CP0 arrives, and after some scuffling going on there, some awesome, more than scuffles, everyone ended up, except for CP0, ended up in the Labophase. I'm just call it the upper lab again, because I keep forgetting the names. The upper lab, and they were supposed to be safe up there. There was security there that Stussy and even comments on, and Kaku got a face full of it firsthand, a kind of laser that shoots him down. But suddenly someone brought the laser down. This defense is down. That was one of the first. That was like the first thing that showed something was going on. And CP0 and the Seraphims got up there, and eventually Stussy turned out to be a. Oh, that's the other thing. Stussy turned out to be a ally to Vegapunk. She knocked out Kaku and Lucci. The Seraphim came back under their control, the control of the satellites. But from that point on, something else was going on. They lost control of the thing. They lost control of the dome. Apparently, someone has overridden that. Then Vegapunk himself disappears. Then everyone else is being attacked now. The Seraphim have been ordered to attack. This is the bullet point version. I'm going to go over some more of this in detail. The gist of this is, it seems like there's someone else in there, and it could be more. I'm sure there's more than one, because there's some other things unaccounted for that I'm going to go over too. And the last chapter, it looks like Shaka got taken out. He had found out where Vegapunk is, and the point here is the chapter has a title about, like, I'm gonna paraphrase it, like, you should have realized sooner. And that had me thinking about how, because when I've watched other mystery shows, I've often missed things, and I realized I should have paid more attention. It's much more difficult, I noticed, in like movies in particular that are mysteries. I often miss it because I'm getting engrossed in the plot and so on. But then they lay out stuff at the end of like what the character was doing and how we should have realized it. And it always, as far as I can remember, they always make great sense once you have that. But and I've seen stuff in movies, books like that too, where like I think it was the 5th Harry Potter book, J.K. Rowling, the author, had like a scene there where the Weasleys and Harry and Hermione and others were inside Sirius Black's home cleaning up stuff, and she snuck in one of the lockets, one of the Horcruxes that way will later become important to the story. Right there, that everyone had found it and they couldn't open it, and it was just left there up until it became important in the beginning of the 7th book, so like 2 years later or whatever. And it was just there. She just talked about it in like one paragraph, I think. So stuff like that is clever. And I see some stuff here that Oda's done that has made me suspicious of one of the satellites more than any other, but I'm still not sure. But nonetheless, let's go over some of this. So the first thing I want to do, well, it's kind of have to go hand in hand. I want to point out some things that some indiscrepancies pointed out. The first of which that was bugging me over the weekend after this chapter ended is that there were some other workers that were shown a few times in the arc. Let me see, where were they? They were, I think it was in chapter 1065. I got the chapters here. I'm trying to great. So I had to get the, sorry, this is just been a chaotic mess for me trying to bring this presentation, and I'm trying to still figure out the best way to bring this forward. But I'm going to start with this first thing that was bugging me. There are a few points here in the story where we see some workers, not just like all the ones we saw mulling around and doing their daily stuff on the fabric or whatever the lower lab area where we first where Luffy and everyone first met Atlas. There were some here. The first, I think it's in chapter. Let me pull it up here. Yes, in chapter. What's this one called? In chapter 1075, when Pythagoras and Edison first show up and they're viewing the other Straw Hats fighting S Shark. There are some. There was a couple assistants there. There's one carrying off paperwork. When Edison gets an idea for another thing, he has a assist tabby, it's called, following them around. And then later in chapter 1070, this is the last time I saw them when they're discussing when Vegapunk is discussing to the Straw Hats and Frankie specifically how they managed to get blood from people like Senior Pink and the others to and then gave it to the Seraphim as to give them devil fruit powers for like paramecia types. I see three more there walking around. And I bring this up because later on, when they locked down the lab, I had assumed that they were only the satellites, the Straw Hats, the Seraphim, and CP0 were there. But where'd that go now? One sec. But in chapter 1074, 4 chapters later after we saw the last workers, this is where it clued me into this. In fact, Shaka, as everyone else is gathering together that become part of this death game, are there in this meeting, and Shaka informs them, or at the time Lucci and Kaku are out of commission, by the way, he informs the others that he sent workers and satellites around the lab to look for Stella, because he disappeared. He disappears in about 2 chapters before, right after we saw him last with Bonnie in another lab area where he's got the Kuma's memories. But in all these chapters starting from this point forward, or even from the last time I saw them, I never saw any workers around, and this just made me very suspicious here. Mostly because I'm thinking that whoever's sneaking around may have thrown those workers in prison, or may have even killed them. The same way he's taken out the Denden Mushies. He's removing, well, I'm saying he tentatively as this suspicious person. But I'm wondering if these people have become also victims of this person's actions. And more importantly, I wonder if this person, if they're not like the Seraphims or anyone else we're thinking about, or satellites, I wonder if this is a mystery person, there could be a mystery person there in helping out at the very least, who is in disguise there, undercover, or someone else there who's one of those workers. I could just see that being something where like it's someone else working with the satellites. Maybe they work with some of the other people enough where if they have a plan to eliminate Vegapunk or protect Vegapunk, take your pick, that they would work with someone else here and have them wandering around here in disguise. First, these people are like that. This person could be on board with the plan here to do whatever they're trying to, whoever's doing this to try and achieve, or they could be the person trying to achieve it. So that part there is this is like the weakest theory of it, but it's still a little weird, odd to me that we have not seen any of these workers, and it's been 7 chapters now since we last saw some of them wandering around in the upper lab working with the satellites. That also kind of bothered me because when they were wandering around, it looks very empty, and that's why I had assumed, like especially Jinbei had remarked how the place was. I think that was in 1075. He remarked how empty it looked in the weapons development area that he was in with Stussy and Vegapunk. Not Vegapunk. Stussy and Sanji was with them. So I would keep that in mind, that we haven't seen any of the workers, but Shaka didn't bring any, said that they're around looking. Now that's not to say they're not there. I guess another way to write this off is that with so much going on, Oda simply has not shown any of them. But I just find that very odd to me that he couldn't see one of them wandering around. I just think they're gone. They either got captured or killed, some of them. If he starts showing them again at some point afterward, this will be great to figure out to be wrong on this one, but this just looks a little suspicious. And it's just an observation because I'm trying to look into this deeply enough to figure this out. So that's that. So the next thing is something else a little bit of note that's kind of bugging me, and because some of this looks a little inconsistent. Oda's been drawing these Seraphim, a lot of the Seraphim, the 4 we've seen, and I noticed, with the exception of Kuma, the S-Bear, the other 3 have interesting eyes, and I'm trying to figure out whether or not he might be trying to show this as a way of showing whether they're under some weird control of somebody else or when they're taking commands. But the thing that's showing up with their eyes, the first time I noticed it the best was in 1069 when Sentomaru comes out and he's got Hawk, Shark, and Snake with him. Let me pull it up. Right here, yeah. So while Vegapunk is talking to him about what the situation is, we get a really close look at the Hawk, Snake, and Shark's eyes, and they have these star shapes in the middle. And the most interesting thing about them, I thought too, is that in other instances of art here with them, Shark sometimes didn't have these eyes, and I'm trying to think whether or not that was just Oda not able to fit them in, or if that's implying something else with them. And this especially bothered me with Snake, because she is the one that's doing attacked first. We saw attack the Straw Hats, and I think, and as well the others are all attacking obviously, but the way her eyes are just really stuck out to me, and I'm just wondering if there's something going on there to show that they are just a Seraphim, or that it's just that's how their eyes are going to be because they're android or cyborg creations. Actually, now that I think about it, I should have looked at King's eyes, but I'm pretty sure King didn't have that, because everything else about them is Lunarian in appearance, other than the fact that they're clones of the Warlord. So I wonder what his eyes were like. I'll have to look into that. Something else of interest too with me, that I'm just throwing this out there because there was no evidence on this, but the satellites always, Vegapunk earlier on talked about how everyone has to synchronize with his brain once a day, because they have all their unique experiences and they're doing all the experiments. And if one of them is the traitor, or even more than one, I'm wondering if Vegapunk is always making sure these satellites are doing this. If at least one of them is a traitor, I have a feeling the way they're getting away with this is they're not synchronizing with the brain. They're not synchronizing. They've stopped doing it because they're going rogue, and they're planning on doing their this plan that's unfolding now. So I'll be interested to see if that is like something where, like, say, who's the one that would be most suspicious to me? I'm thinking about Shaka and Lilith, example, who's science and logic, and how they, yeah. Sorry, I had some other thoughts on this one. I didn't write enough of this down, but if one of them is rogue, I have a feeling that what happened there is something going on with them not telling the others. Because there's too much, like, I feel like there'd be too much, and easy for that to be figured out by the brain, and it could inform someone. Unless that too, that's the other thing. But some of these weird events that happen with, like, the Frontier Dome going down, people are already bringing up the brain, and I'm kind of on board with that idea too. My thoughts are the brain's working with one of the satellites, and the others just don't even know. This is like the flip side of this previous thought, that it's hiding this information somehow, that Vegapunk's maybe not checking enough, because he already admits recently how this is very odd that's happening under his nose. So maybe he's not realized that somehow there's some kind of conspiracy going on with a satellite or satellites with his brain to do this kind of thing. A second little tidbit I wanted to bring up with the satellites too is I noticed when once the Lilith brought the Straw Hats and their ship to the lab. Sorry, I keep going. I noticed he didn't want to stay. He didn't want to leave because he didn't trust Lilith, and I'm just wondering if that will ever pan out. Although he's never trusted, I think, Robin or Nami when they first were part of the crew. So that could be just Oda keeping him in character. But that was just interesting that he was the only one that said he didn't trust her. And then, like, Frankie, of course, once he figured out that's Vegapunk, he didn't care. So, something else with the Seraphim, I almost forgot this. I knew I should have taken more notes. I'm wondering if the reason why these Seraphim that are, I'm thinking that another possibility of why the Seraphim are not listening to Shaka and everyone else, like Shaka, this in a way could rule out Shaka too. But perhaps not. Is that whoever the traitor is, if it is one of the satellites, and they've been planning this, I suspect what they did is they circumvented the rules that Oda has placed on here, showing how the Seraphim have this hierarchy, and whoever's doing this has put themselves, like an individual satellite, if it was one of them, as the highest person who they must listen to, or at least the same as the five elders, you could say. But probably, I want to say they would just make it simple and just go, I'm the highest order, I'm the highest one now, you will only listen to me. So when things start going wrong here, when everyone else was planning his stuff, trying to find Stella, and they regrouped there, whoever this was secretly went to the other Seraphim here right after Stussy took out Kaku and Lucci. They told him to make this order to start killing, to go after the other satellites and Straw Hats and Kaku. Meanwhile, and then they went off to do they attacked right before they attacked who was that first? Pythagoras. It's feasible that these things if they programmed them to do this way, I see how they could just go back later and reprogram them. Hopefully if they can still do that this time, like if they can, if it's not permanent once they've set it up earlier on, that they could just change that order ranking or hierarchy, and then they can just change it so that now no one's going to listen to them. No one else is going to listen because they are, without realizing it, Shaka's found this out, and he's implying, he's using the rules in place to tell us that it's a traitor who's another satellite. I'm just wondering if this person simplified this, if this could be simplified, they're just reprogramming and making sure they always listen to them. So we'll see how that goes too. So I guess, yeah, the last thing I want to go over today, the most interesting one, I want to save the best for last, is how I think this person could be getting around, or persons other than Caribou, to getting around the lab. So this is something Oda has brought up multiple times here that's really caught my attention. And it has to do with them using holograms to for certain things in here, for disguises. We first see this, I think it is, we first see this disguise, we first see the holograms, by the way, because Luffy, Bonnie, and everyone come up into the lab and they see a hologram of food and they see a hologram of a creature. And I think that's the first time, right? And then, let's see. Where's that other bit? Yeah, and then a little bit later, we see this, when the other Straw Hats are following Lilith into the main lab, through the main gate, the gate temporarily becomes a light, like a phase, intangible as far as metal, like being metal, and they are able to go through it. And then Usopp goes back and looks at it again, and it's like, oh, now it's back to metal. And interesting too is, and this to bring up, is how Vegapunk brings up at in 1067 how he was surprised that Luffy, Chopper, Jinbei, and Bonnie found the area where the Mekk-Knight is. And actually, that's something else too I keep forgetting. I'll write that down. I'll get to this in a second. So the thing is, what if, basically what if this person who's moving around here is using light holograms to camouflage, like they produce something that will look like another part of the lab, and they're hiding behind it. Because it seems these things could be very solid. Like the one that Vegapunk brings up especially, where the way to get to that lab that night usually would be through a route that has in the town that looks like an impassable wall. So there could be other parts of the lab where someone's hanging out near, like the first instance I was thinking this would be useful for them is when the dome went down and it allowed the Cypher Pole and Seraphim to get through. This could be where this person was hiding somewhere in a control room where they can override the dome control quickly to turn it off. And then later they said that they're even I think they say they're locked out. So whoever's doing this could have been there because because they also say when it goes down, Pythagoras is checking and he can't see anyone right there. Like, okay, how did they get away? How are they not in sight? Because this was before the cameras were taken out by the Seraphim. Some of the cameras were, and eventually this other person who may be in the same one is taking out the rest because they want to just make this easier for themselves to get around. But initially they could have just hid somewhere. Let's see, let's get that chapter up again. In 1074, Shaka brings up how they lost control of the Frontier Dome. So this reminds me too, this is part of the reason I just brought up previously about the locking out the Seraphim from listening, is this same thing has happened here somehow, and he never really explains how, which kind of was part of the reason I was also suspicious of Shaka, although I still a little bit am, and I'm going to go into this later. Yeah, they locked, he's telling everyone they're locked out, so someone was there. Let's go with the theory there's someone else. Someone was there and they, basically snuck over to the controls when no one was looking, turned it off, and hit again using light. Maybe they're even making themselves look invisible. Isn't that what, this is the other thing, Vegapunk's got something, he looked like he was invisible for a moment. Although I thought that was a teleporting thing. Let's see here. So at one point when Shaka, he tells the other one he thought the system malfunctioned there. So at first he must have just thought, oh, something happened and I got out of control. But clearly someone else did this, and he's later says it's where is that? 1071 is when the dome went down, and then 1074 he's saying it when So So this light bit becomes more interesting when you look back at when Atlas, the satellite, first shows up in chapter 1062. So this is right after the Straw Hats come into the main lab on the lower floor, and they what do you call it? Yeah, Luffy. I brought this up earlier when Luffy was Luffy and Bonnie saw this food, a chopper too, and then there was a creature that looks like a dragon, and so the thing is that makes this interesting is we learn about these things being holograms made of light. Even Bonnie knows about them because she's been here before, and let's see, where is this? Where do I start with this? So. Yeah, so Atlas comes in, and she's first bringing up to answering Jinbei's question about how the island's weather is, and she gets angry and rants about how they don't have enough resources and all the little things that make her and the other Vegapunk's research so difficult, and she punches that dragon that Luffy thought was trying to ride on, because he tried to jump up on it like he did with the Brachiosaur or whatever, that one herbivore dinosaur back at Little Garden, and he couldn't do it. And then they also seen the food was fake. She punches it and shows off that she has these gloves. I think they're called light pressure gloves, and she explains about how, like, with stuff like that, even something that's light, it can become real, it can be matter. And this is the part that's most interesting to me too, because of what I said previously with the thing hiding. And then maybe this also, I think, relates back to that door. When the other Straw Hats a few chapters later go through a door, it somehow becomes tangible again. And I suspect there's something going on there where the technology in those gloves that she has is being used to become tangible. So, and then she even does something here where I think she creates like a person. We see a young girl pop up in front of her, and that's where Luffy asks whether or not the lady's real. Now, this is the thing that really got my attention when I kept thinking about how the Oda seems to be implying that we should be paying attention to what he laid out before. I think this light is important too to something with the last thing was Shaka. When Shaka got killed, I think that something's happening there with I'm wondering if there's like how do I put this? So this is something too with the light where I was bringing up with the camouflage thing. I wonder if this is how this person followed Shaka without their knowing, because they show up there. And they sneak up behind him somehow. So I was trying to figure out how else this light stuff could be used. And this also makes me wonder if somehow it's a satellite's doing this. I wonder I'm suspicious of what we just may have saw there. Might have been not, that Shaka getting shot may not have really happened. Because Atlas's cryptic sort of speech earlier about light and people believing what they want makes me wonder if this was done intentionally by the culprit to shock Vegapunk, to scare him, and that this Shaka, I almost wonder if this Shaka wasn't even the real one, like it was a light apparition, a thing made of light that came there, and whoever did this used a gun that looks like it's from that light, used the technology that Atlas showed off, and did this to scare Vegapunk. And there's how do I put this? It seems like there'd be some other applications with light that could be done that way, some kind of hologram. And I know this kind of stuff's been shown in other kinds of movies, and I'm wondering if that's where Oda got this from. So it's just suspicious here. I'm even more suspicious with other little stuff Oda's laying out, basically. And by the way, what this also makes me think now is I am very skeptical. I'm now more than ever suspicious if it is a satellite that Atlas could be it now, because she's the one who has that light and was showing off that technology. Not that the others couldn't have it, but that she talked about that and had this anger about light. But when Luffy asked about what's real or not, she really got upset by that. So it's like something that, how do I put this? It's just like I'm wondering if she's angry about something with Vegapunk, and she's the one who seems to know how to use this light technology the best, perhaps, and is now using it to enact some kind of revenge or something. Right. Probably the last thing I'll go over to is I was bringing up Vegapunk's thing earlier. He somehow warped there into the area where Luffy and everyone was, and Chopper, Bonnie, not everyone. And that technology too, we don't know for sure he only had that. That too, I just realized could have been used just as with the conjunction with this light technology to maybe how this person is getting around. So he warped there, and he said he got it wrong. But like, let's see. Because later, he uses that technology to, I think, quickly jump up into the, appear at the main lab with the other satellites in this, where the other Straw Hats are too. And it's like he got it to work that point. So what if someone else has made that technology, has that, too, like he's had other, more than one of those machines that make that work, and someone else could be using that to get around and avoid detection here, because they said no one was in the command room, and then they what was the other thing with that? They could have warped there to follow Shaka. That's it. They could have even asked something else too with Vegapunk. No, I'm just doing a random thoughts that came to me. Vegapunk was last seen right there outside of that room where Bonnie is. So it's funny. So that person, I wonder if they were following Bonnie and Vegapunk after they everyone else was up there. I think that was right after Kaku and the others were up there, after the dome was down. I'm wondering if that person followed whoever is part of this that captured Vegapunk. I wonder if they followed Bonnie and Vegapunk there, and then captured him, and he could have maybe used the warp thing to get out of void detection and get down to the my cat's playing. What you got there, Kitty? Yeah, get it. He's playing around. Go down to the lab, Devil Fruit lab, and lock him up. Maybe that's too how they captured. Is that what they could have done? Well, maybe with the Sea Beast, they just took those guys. I'm thinking about how they would have got all the CP, other Cypher Pole agents into that place without anyone noticing. Now, I'm pretty sure there must not be any cameras down there, because no one's. It looks like Shaka just realized at the last moment that they're down there. Like again, if he's not part of it. I'm less suspicious of Shaka than before, though. I don't know why. Everything about this is just screaming to me that someone else. And oh, by the way, I'm still not forgetting about the other Seraphim. We still haven't seen them. We saw the room where they were, by the way. I was looking again. I think it was 1065. That's right. When Lilith leads them in there, I caught on to Lilith. I didn't realize that Lilith and Edison, they coerced that incident to happen so that they could see how the S-Shark's combat abilities would work against the Straw Hats. And when you look in that room, I think especially when the fight's over, let's see here. Yeah, when you look at the other fight afterward, you can see some of the other rooms there. So for example, they're numbered too. So it looks like S-Shark was in number 4. And when you look behind in this part where Shaka orders S-Shark to stand down, there's the number 5 and 6 are right there. And then I think you can also see number 8. So wait, no, is that 8? So some of the rooms in this big circular area that is in the upper lab. And they haven't really shown that much since, I think. So they still right there somewhere are the other Seraphim, which also makes me think about how if they do have a problem with these Seraphim, I'm surprised the other, a little surprising to me that Shaka or, who else was there at the time? No, the others had all split up. I'm a little surprised Shaka didn't just like go and activate the remaining ones to have a fighting edge against these ones that are turning on him. So are they even still there? Are they out somewhere? Or are they part of this plot? I don't have a lot of theories on that one. Oh, one last little thing too. I noticed when Jinbei, the S-Shark, is fighting with the Straw Hats, he fights with Nami and goes up against Nami and Sanji here at one point. And I just realized now he's fighting those two again. And then the last that happened in the last chapter or 76. And it's funny here. I know, not funny, but I noticed that when this fight first happened, Jinbei, the S-Shark attacked Nami and dives under and ambushed her, and he does it again later in the recent chapter when they're fighting him for real. Well, it was real both times, I guess, but was that? Yeah, so in the last chapter, he's fighting them again. He does the same thing, and I'm surprised Nami didn't like pick up on it because he did it to her 12 chapters ago. He gets on, when she uses Zeus on him and does like a thunderbolt, he quickly goes under the water and then goes behind her again. So this S-Shark especially, he likes to ambush, I noticed, as one of his tactics. So I guess that's it for the video today. Oh, actually one final little tidbit. As I was going through this, I noticed that with the lab defenses, that ring, I noticed earlier on they had different numbers before it went up to when it was fully turned on. I guess when Kaku got hit, it was at 1.68 and then at 72. And I think when Shaka and the others turned it on to keep the cipher pull out, it was at 100. And then you saw when it got turned off by whoever, it turned to 0. So it's a little interesting how Oda made sure to show numbers on that consistently in different parts. So I was just wondering too, though, when the other numbers were going on, 72 and 68, for example, if that thing would have still shocked people, but maybe like with less intensity than it would have earlier. So that's probably it. So yeah, I don't know who it is still, but Shock now. Atlas is on my list more than before, and I had her as like 3rd before, just because I was thinking about the motivations of her and Lilith and Shaka, and then I didn't have the others because I just thought I couldn't see any motivations. But now I've put her up forefront because of the stuff she did in 1062. And otherwise, also I can't forget Caribou. Caribou's still here, and I think that's I've been seeing like point out that Caribou might be the one taking out the Denben bushies, and that does kind of make sense to me because I think he did the same thing at the Udon prison back at Wano. So that would be right up his alley to be like the one taking the oh, that's the other thing. Right up his alley to take the be the one doing that again. And one last thing too, I just realized when I was rewatching Tekking's video, the chapter review of 1077, and I looked it up myself. People were pointing out, he pointed out that others were pointing out, and I looked myself too. This sound effects being used when we saw this assailant attack Pythagoras, and then when he attacks Shaka, there's that little sound. It's like KTOK, like KT. Here, let me find it actually. I found it. Yeah, when near the end of 1074, when Pythagoras is attacked, I didn't realize when I read this that it showed the assailant's shadows slowly coming out on the crosswalk right behind him, and the sound effect is that KTOK, and then it shows it again at the end of 1077. And back to where I started, absolutely, they were correct that the sound effect showed up when we saw Im-sama. When Im showed up, and I think that was chapter 906. Yeah, right at the end of 906, when Im goes up to the straw hat he has there. It was the same exact sound effects. That was a very good observation there, someone pointed out. So that does make me a little suspicious that Eam could be somehow behind this. In which case, how did he even get there? And does that like just throw out most of my other theories about the light and the teleportation out the window? I really have no answers on this, but the other things I wanted to point out with the light and how how they show that use, it really stands out to me as the most compelling way that this person could be maneuvering around everyone without them knowing, as well as the fact that maybe they were just disguised as like one of the workers that we've seen in there a few times, and were supposedly walking around helping these straw hats and satellites looking, but we never saw any of them doing any of that. So that are they all, the other ones gone or killed, thrown in that one of those prisons with the cipher pole? A few more days and we'll find out. But I wanted to get this video out, my last thoughts on what I saw there. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.